Well, welcome to a special in-depth version of BBC. No, not that one. Bat Beep Crazy. We're going to dig into these protests in Gaza at the moment that have everyone talking. We've seen a massive uprising of what appears to be civilians protesting Hamas. But is it what it seems? Now, I'm joined by Simha Bradsky, who is a journalist here in Jerusalem. Thank you so very much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here with you.
I have never seen such a thing that looks simple and people think, OK, this is what it is. They're uprising against Hamas. But the reaction from those in the know has been very different behind the scenes. Can you explain to me what this could be? What are some of the options? Is it legitimate? Are these people genuinely hating Hamas now? Or is it part of a ploy? Do they want peace with Israel or not? Do these people still hate Israel? Can you go through some of the reaction that you've seen?
Wow, such an excellent question. And I think that there's a lot of different opinions that are flying around. And as of right now, we obviously don't know which one is correct. It's a lot of assumptions, a lot of opinions. And the main points is, like, from the surface, many people, even on the Israeli side, are praising the civilians as heroes. Finally, they're standing up against Hamas, and finally they're out in the streets protesting. But on the flip side, you have people that are more skeptical, because up until literally now with these protests, we have seen that people are not allowed to sneeze without Hamas's, without their permission. And people are very skeptical. They're thinking that maybe Hamas is staging it. Maybe it's another group that's attempting to take over control.
Like we've seen in Syria, that can sometimes be worse.
Exactly. Or another alternative is that Hamas doesn't necessarily allow it, but there's tons of cameras. Maybe it slipped through the media cracks, and now you've got tons of people in the streets, and Hamas can't do anything about it because everything is, you know, being photographed and videoed, and Hamas can't just start spraying down people with bullets like we've seen people do in the past when they've stolen flour from the aid, you know, or you have bags that are marked with do not resell or not for resale on the UNRWA aid that's being sent into Gaza, and we've seen people killed because they've attempted to take it, or they're mad at Hamas because Hamas is attempting to resell these things. And so it could be two things simultaneously. It could be that they are mad at Hamas, but that doesn't mean that they're now pro-Israel.
Yeah.
You know, that's another thing. It could be that the protests themselves are very innocent and they're actual real protests, but it doesn't mean that they're pro-Israel. So hailing them as heroes, we need to be careful. You know, that's the general view as of now from both sides and the two extremes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, both can be true in that they can hate Hamas whilst they simultaneously still hate Israel and the Jewish people simultaneously and with the same amount of vigour. So are they angry purely because Hamas failed in what they tried to do to Israel and the Jewish people? And would they be completely okay if Hamas had succeeded?
It's a great question, because we saw, remember after October 7th, when all of the trucks rolled in with the bodies and with hostages that they had brought in over from Israel, and all the civilians are surrounding the trucks and they're cheering and they're pounding on the trucks, and it was chaotic and very much supporting of Hamas. And it could very well be that in the beginning, a lot of the civilians didn't know that it was going to happen, and they thought that Hamas was finally going to break them free. And now that they're seeing that Hamas is failing them and stealing aid from them, you know, and reselling things that shouldn't be resold for crazy high prices. Bags of flour cost, you know, 6 times, 10 times more than they're supposed to cost. A simple bottle of canola oil costs, you know, between $6 and $10, which is crazy, you know. And so it could be that simultaneously they hate Israel and they also hate Hamas, or they're very mad at Hamas for the way that they've been treated from the organization in total. So yeah, absolutely, they could be true simultaneously.
In terms of how Israel approached this, so even if we accept that they still hate Israel, they still hate Jews, but they hate Hamas, how does Israel take advantage of this moment in time if it is as it seems, and they are legitimately protesting Hamas? And we'll talk about another theory in a second that Hamas could be behind this. But let's accept that they are protesting Hamas, but they still hate Israel, still hate the Jews.
Yeah.
Where's the advantage and benefit in this for Israel? How do they take advantage of this?
So another really good question, and I think, again, this is just my personal opinion, because now we're getting analytical here, but generally, I would think that it does give a little bit of credit to the possibility of installing a new power organization in the Gaza Strip. Whether it's the Palestinian Authority, we know that Fatah has been involved, and Fatah and Hamas have always fought. They haven't liked each other because their ideologies, while they're similar from the Islamic perspective, are very different in terms of how they want to run things.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing a little bit of collaboration, or supposed collaboration, which is very interesting. But it does give an opportunity for Israel to try to swoop in and install something new. I've heard rumors, and again, it's completely unconfirmed, that Saudi Arabia might be also trying to finally get involved and install something new. So it could be a psyop from their side, and they could have taken the opportunity to potentially pull the wool over Hamas's eyes just for a second. Get the cameras out there. Get Al Jazeera out there. Now we can't kill civilians or stop civilians, while Hamas has to say something along the lines of, well, no, we're democratic. We allow protests, and that's another thing that, wow, Hamas isn't as bad as we thought they were. Look, they're allowing all these people to protest. So I think it's a lot of mix of different things.
Looking at the Hamas possibility that they are somehow behind this and that there's something bigger and more devious at play, there are people in the IDF at the coalface, essentially, who think this might be the case. And again, unverified, as we know, this is all speculation. But can you share some of that with me? Absolutely.
So I was speaking to someone who's directly connected with people in the Maglan unit, which is a special forces unit that has been stationed in Gaza. They're at a lot of the outposts that are there, and they routinely conduct operations in Gaza. Also, someone who's worked very closely with the Ministry of Defense. A lot of people on the ground in Gaza are getting very anxious, thinking that something here is not right. They've been seeing very strange things happening in Gaza, like kids showing up at the outposts, which was apparently very unusual. And they've had to actually take the child and return them back to the camp, to the refugee camp where they came from. And it's just very interesting. It's just stuff that makes you go what's going on here? And he thinks that this operation, he doesn't think it's a psyop. He thinks it's a legitimate operation to cover for something big coming, even potentially within the next 48 hours. Again, not to scare anybody, but the main thing is listen, we saw what happened October 7th. The government told us not to worry for years prior. Gaza's under control. The borders are secure. There's cameras everywhere. Israeli technology is second to none, in terms of security. And we need now to be vigilant. And they just want people to listen. They just want the government to listen to the soldiers that are on the ground who have eyes on what's going on. They don't want people to just turn a blind eye and think, we got Gaza under control now, there's no need to worry. We know Hamas has been training. We watch them train. We watch them conduct operations. We watch them tell us to our faces, and Abu Ubaidah saying that there'll be many more October 7th until we're free. So why are we chilling?
said prior to this, October 7, essentially described what would occur. 18 months, 2 years prior.
Exactly. So why would we relax? Why wouldn't we stay vigilant? And that's what the most of the IDF people that are still on the ground in Gaza are generally thinking. They're a little bit worried that people are not going to step up to the plate like they should.
Yeah, I guess there's this fear that this level of complacency might set in amongst Israelis and the Jewish community, where they think, oh, finally there's this uprising we've been waiting for. But it could be something else completely, and you cannot underestimate Hamas. You cannot think they are silly or stupid.
Have you seen that yourself, even over the recent year? Things have sort of chilled out. Have you noticed that for yourself?
I think absolutely. I think it happens in any circumstance, doesn't it? When people just become used to the status quo and things become quite repetitive. And I think you relax, you get yourself into this lull, and it's in any kind of environment, whether it's a physical war with soldiers, whether it's a war online with information, with space. I look at even people on an individual basis who would fight day in, day out, calling out everything, have suddenly just stopped a little bit now because they feel a little bit more relaxed. We're having ceasefire. I don't think we're at the stage where any of us can take our foot off the pedal even for a second. And I think, having watched all of the raw vision of October 7, having seen the faces of the people who committed the worst atrocities I've ever seen, filmed it, etc. Seeing their reaction, seeing the joy they derived from the most heinous acts possible is a new level of depravity that I'd never experienced or seen. And so having seen that, there is no way in hell I could ever not think the very, very worst of Hamas and ever underestimate their capability.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important for people to remember.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you so much. You're incredible. I'm so grateful for you to join me. And how can my viewers watch you here?
Well, you can find us at jfeed.com, which is our main site where we post everything. You catch me every morning, Eastern Standard Time at 8 a.m. for my morning show about what happened over the course of the night while you were sleeping. You know, most of the Western world was sleeping.
You said something to me earlier, which I mean must be so rare, as in you just give people the facts. You don't try and weave your own narrative in.
No, I think
you would never get a job.
Yeah, the news not giving you their opinions.
Or the CNN,
oh, wow.
You'd never get a job.
Yeah, I think people tend to downplay the viewer and to tell them that, no, you're not so intelligent. Let me tell you what's going on.
Okay,
right?
this is a segment of a show that I recorded just before I left the hotel. And exactly what you said, I was talking about the BBC trying to get an anti-Netanyahu critic to come on and talk about their coverage, and they're a news program. And I said exactly that. I said, don't you trust your audience to be intelligent enough? If you're right, the way you feel is right, to give them the facts and be confident they'll reach the same conclusion? No, you're not.
No.
It's offensive to your viewers that you don't think you can present them with information and they can come to...
People are intelligent.
They
people
are,
know,
inherently so.
People know how to come to their own conclusions, and we should give that to the viewer a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Give them that opportunity to decide what they want.
Even if we disagree with it, allow them to come to their own place.
Yeah.
Yep. You're amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Catch you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.